The woman he craved more than air lunged at him across the shattered glass, her nails raking deep lines down his face as if she could tear the love right out of his skin. Blood mixed with the greenish liquid pooling on the floor, and in that frozen second, Darius saw her eyes, once soft with desire, now wild, empty, possessed. She screamed his name like a curse, her body trembling against his as they crashed into the wall, furniture splintering around them. This wasn't passion anymore. This was the final moment when everything they had built in stolen nights and whispered promises collapsed into pure destruction. The vial lay broken between them, its contents seeping into the cracks of the hardwood, carrying the last traces of whatever twisted hope had kept them clinging to each other. He tried to hold her wrists, to stop the frenzy, but her strength felt inhuman, fueled by something ancient and unforgiving that had finally woken up inside both of them. In the dim light of his crumbling apartment, with sirens already wailing in the distance, Darius understood too late. The woman he desired had become the instrument of his ruin, and he had handed her the weapon. Have you ever held someone so close that their heartbeat felt like your own, only to wake up one morning and realize that same rhythm now pounds with rage directed at you? Have you loved a person with everything you had, every late-night conversation, every brush of skin, every promise made in the dark, until the weight of that love slowly crushed the air from your lungs? Ever caught yourself staring at the ceiling after a fight, wondering how the person who once made you feel invincible could now make you question your worth? Have you tasted the bitter shift when affection curdles into suspicion, when a simple glance or missed call ignites a fire you can't control? Have you ever felt the exact moment your heart turned heavy, when trust dissolved and all that remained was the echo of what used to be tender? That hollow ache, that quiet terror of losing not just the person but the version of yourself who believed in forever. Most of us have stood on that edge, and for some, that edge drops straight into something much darker. Darius had walked out of the courtroom with nothing, his home gone, his savings drained, his prototypes claimed as shared property, all stripped away by the woman who once vowed to stand by him through every storm. But the real venom wasn't in those legal papers or the judge's gavel. It coursed through his veins from generations back, a hidden toxin in his family's lineage that waited for heartbreak to activate. Divorce had left him exposed, raw, like a wound begging for infection. Yet the poison already lurked deeper, inherited from an uncle whose own obsession with eternal devotion had birthed a formula designed to bind souls but instead shattered them. This wasn't just a failed marriage, it was a chain reaction, where the end of one love unearthed a curse that twisted every connection after. The problem stared back at him from that murky vial. What happens when the darkness in your blood meets the scars of betrayal? It doesn't heal. It festers, turning desire into delusion, intimacy into injury, until everyone around you gets dragged into the same abyss. Darius's story exposes how one person's unresolved pain can become a weapon, how a simple inheritance can ignite a fire that burns through lives without mercy. What if the darkest family secret you inherit doesn't just haunt you in quiet moments? It awakens inside you, spreads through every touch, every kiss, every promise, and consumes everyone you dare to let close. What if that single drop from an old vial doesn't offer healing or power? It simply accelerates the rot already eating away at your heart. Darius never asked for this legacy. He never imagined one broken marriage would unlock a chain of devastation that reached back decades and forward into every future he might have had. Yet here he stands, in the wreckage of his own apartment, staring at the woman whose body he once worshipped, now transformed by the same poison running through his blood. This is the moment everything ends, not with a gentle goodbye, but with screams, shattered glass, and the sickening realization that love, when poisoned at the root, has no antidote. Welcome, old friends and new hearts tuning in for the first time to Lord of Hearts, where we peel back the layers of American romance, the kind that burns bright before it burns everything down. To every woman watching right now, you are the heartbeat of every great love story ever told, the quiet strength behind every tear that falls, the fierce fire that makes men rewrite their entire lives just for one more glance from you. Thank you for trusting us with these raw truths, for letting us explore the beauty and the brutality through your eyes. If you're ready to feel this kind of raw, dangerous emotion, If this opening already has your pulse racing, hit like right now to let me know you're locked in. Drop A in the comments if you've ever had your heart poisoned by love, even just a little. Share this video with someone who needs to hear a warning wrapped in passion. And subscribe, plus turn on the bell so you never miss a story that reaches deep and refuses to let go. The Las Vegas Convention Center buzzed with the low roar of ambition, thousands of voices overlapping, screens flashing code demos, coffee cups littering every surface. Darius Hale stood near the back of Ballroom C, arms crossed, half listening to a panel on neural networks. He wore a simple navy blazer over a black shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, more comfortable with logic than small talk. At 34, he had built a quiet reputation writing elegant algorithms for mid-sized firms. Nothing flashy, just clean lines that solved problems without drama. Then she walked onto the stage for the next session. Viviana Reyes commanded the room before she even spoke. Dark hair swept into a low knot, red lipstick sharp against warm skin, heels clicking with purpose. She presented a case study on viral ad campaigns powered by behavioral data, her voice clear and confident, pausing just long enough to let key points land. When she smiled at the audience, it felt personal, like she had singled out every person in the seats. Darius felt the pull immediately, an unexpected jolt that made him straighten. After her talk, the Q&A line formed fast. He joined it without thinking. When his turn came, he asked something technical about latency in real-time bidding. She answered directly, eyes locking on his for a beat longer than necessary. "Good question," she said. "Most people don't dig that deep." The session ended. People surged toward the exits. Darius lingered near the stage steps, pretending to check his phone. She descended, carrying a slim laptop bag, and their eyes met again. "You're the latency guy," she said, stopping in front of him. "Darius, Viviana." She extended her hand. Her grip was firm, warm. "You staying for the after party?" "I wasn't planning to." "You should." She tilted her head. "I'll be there. Find me." He did. The rooftop lounge glowed with string lights and city neon. Music pulsed low. She found him first, 2 drinks in hand, one for each. They talked easily about bad conference Wi-Fi, favorite late-night coding playlists, the way San Francisco fog made everything feel temporary. Conversation flowed without effort, laughter coming quick. An hour later, they stood at the railing, shoulders brushing, looking down at traffic crawling far below. "You're not like most people here," she said. "How so?" "You listen. Really listen. Most guys are already planning their next line." He smiled. "I'm usually better with machines than people. Tonight, you're doing fine." Their first kiss happened in the elevator on the way to her floor. The doors closed. The world narrowed to the space between them. She stepped close, fingers grazing his jaw, then pulled him in. Lips met soft at first, then urgent. His hands found her waist. Hers slid under his jacket. When the elevator dinged, they barely noticed. Inside her suite, clothes fell away in a quiet rush. No awkward pauses, no second guessing. Skin against skin, breath catching, bodies fitting together like they had practiced for years. She whispered his name against his neck as he moved above her, slow then faster, every motion drawing soft gasps. Later, tangled in sheets, she traced lazy patterns across his chest. "I don't usually do this," she murmured. "Me neither." "Good. Let's keep it that way." They spent the next 3 days stealing moments between sessions, quick coffees that turned into long lunches, hallway kisses when no one watched, nights that stretched until dawn. On the final evening, they skipped the closing keynote entirely. Room service arrived with wine and dessert they barely touched. They talked about dreams instead, hers to lead her own agency one day, his to build something small but perfect that changed how people connected online. "I want a life that feels alive," she said, head resting on his shoulder. "Not just a paycheck and a house. I want the same," he answered. "Someone who sees the code behind the person." She lifted her face, kissed him deeply, "Then stay with me tonight, and tomorrow." And after that, he stayed. They flew back to different cities, him to Seattle, her to Chicago, but the distance felt temporary. Texts arrived constantly, voice notes late at night. Weekend flights became routine. Within 2 months they decided one of them had to move. Darius chose Chicago. He found a sublet near the lake, started applying to local firms. Viviana helped him unpack, laughing when he insisted on organizing his books alphabetically. That first night in the new place, they made love on the bare mattress, windows open to the city hum, her legs wrapped around him, his name a soft chant against his ear. 6 months later, they signed a lease together. A sleek loft in River North with tall windows and exposed brick. They filled it with pieces of both lives, his minimalist desk setup, her bold art prints, a shared coffee machine that became their morning ritual. Weekends meant farmers' markets, long walks along the lakefront, quiet evenings where she worked on pitches while he debugged side projects, their feet touching under the table. Intimacy stayed electric. Mornings began with slow caresses, her back pressed to his chest, his lips on her shoulder as sunlight crept across the bed. Afternoons sometimes ended early, door locked, blinds half drawn, her straddling him on the couch, hips rolling in a rhythm that left them both breathless. Nights were unhurried explorations, hands learning every curve, mouths tracing paths already memorized but never tiring of. She loved when he whispered against her skin, telling her exactly what he felt in the moment. He loved the way her breath hitched when he found the right spot, the way she held his gaze even as pleasure made her tremble. They spoke of the future casually at first, then seriously. Marriage came up over dinner one evening. Simple banns, a small ceremony somewhere warm, maybe Hawaii. Children later, after careers settled. They pictured it clearly. A house with a yard, holidays with both families, anniversaries marked with quiet getaways. It felt unbreakable. They hosted friends, traveled together, week in Napa, long weekend in New York. Photos filled their phones, her laughing in a vineyard, him kissing her temple at sunset, hands linked across restaurant tables. Everyone said the same thing, you two are perfect. And for a while, they believed it. Yet even in the brightest moments, small shadows waited. She started working longer hours, chasing bigger accounts. He noticed her phone lighting up more often after 10 p.m. She brushed it off, clients in different time zones. He told himself it was temporary. Love this strong didn't fade, it only deepened. When love feels eternal, we never suspect it's already decaying inside. The first real argument arrived quietly. She came home late again, distracted, scrolling emails while he cooked. He asked if she wanted to eat together. She snapped, "Can I have 5 minutes to breathe?" He went silent. She apologized later, kissed him softly, led him to bed. They made love as if to erase the tension, fiercer than usual, almost desperate. Afterward she curled against him, whispering, "I'm sorry. I just want everything." He held her tighter. "You already have me." She smiled, but her eyes stayed distant. They patched it. Weeks passed smoothly again. Passion returned full force. Weekend mornings spent in bed, afternoons tangled on the living room rug, evenings where she surprised him by wearing nothing but his shirt when he walked through the door. They laughed about the fight, called it growing pains, but the patches grew thinner. He began to feel the shift in small ways. Her laugh sounded forced sometimes, her touch more habitual than hungry. He told himself he was overthinking. She was building something big. He supported that. Love meant sacrifice. One night she fell asleep on the couch, phone still in hand. He saw a message preview before the screen dimmed. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Wear the red one." He didn't ask. He didn't want to know. Instead, he poured a drink, sat in the dark, and stared at the city lights. The loft felt too large, too quiet. For the first time, the promise of forever tasted fragile. The first sign arrived so quietly, Darius almost missed it. Viviana's agency landed a national campaign for a major streaming platform. Overnight, her inbox filled with congratulatory emails, her name appeared on industry panels, and headhunters started calling. She worked late most nights, then brought the laptop to bed, typing furiously while he tried to read beside her. "Just one more slide," she'd say, kissing his cheek absently. He nodded, understanding. At least he told himself he did. Months passed. Her promotion came fast, senior strategist, then account director. Salary doubled. New wardrobe appeared, tailored blazers, silk blouses, heels that clicked with authority down the loft hallway. She glowed with purpose. Darius watched her rehearse pitches in the mirror, voice steady, gestures precise. Pride swelled in his chest every time she nailed a client call. He cooked dinner on the nights she remembered to come home before 9, left notes on the fridge, "Proud of you. Eat something real." She'd find them, smile, hug him from behind while he washed dishes. But the hugs grew shorter. Conversations narrowed to logistics. Who would pick up dry cleaning, whose turn it was to call the landlord about the leaky faucet. Sex, once spontaneous and consuming, started following a schedule. Friday nights mostly. Lights off, routine motions. She'd initiate sometimes, climbing on top with efficient urgency, riding him until release came quick for both. Afterward she rolled away to check her phone, scrolling through Slack threads while he stared at the ceiling, body still humming, heart cooling faster than the sweat on his skin. He tried to talk about it once. They were eating takeout on the couch, her legs across his lap. "I miss us," he said carefully. "The way we used to stay up talking, until we couldn't keep our eyes open." She looked up from her phone. "We still talk. Not like before. I'm exhausted, Darius. This account is make or break. Once it launches, things will calm down." He nodded. "Okay." She leaned over, kissed him briefly. "I love you. You know that?" "I know." The kiss felt like punctuation, not promise. The first real argument erupted on a Saturday morning 3 months later. She had promised the weekend off. Instead, she took a 7 a.m. call from a client in Singapore. Darius waited in the kitchen, coffee cooling, eggs going cold. When she finally emerged at 10:30, hair still damp from the shower, he was sitting at the island staring at his untouched plate. "You said no work this weekend." "It was urgent." "It's always urgent." She sighed, set her mug down harder than necessary. "This is how careers move forward. You wouldn't understand." The words landed like a slap. "Because I'm not climbing the same ladder." "I didn't say that." "You implied it." Silence, stretched. She rubbed her temples. "I'm not doing this right now. I need to prep for Monday." She walked away. He stayed seated, staring at the congealed eggs, feeling something shift permanently inside his ribcage. After that, silences became their default language. Mornings, quick pecks at the door, no eye contact. Evenings, she ate at her desk in the spare room while he watched shows alone on the couch. He stopped leaving notes. She stopped noticing. Intimacy dwindled to rare, almost obligatory encounters. One night, she reached for him in the dark, hand sliding down his stomach. He responded out of habit, rolling toward her, entering her with slow familiarity. No words, no lingering touches. She came quietly, turned away immediately, pulled the blanket higher. He lay on his back, staring into blackness, arousal fading into a dull ache behind his sternum. It wasn't release anymore, it was maintenance. He started sleeping on the couch some nights, claiming he didn't want to wake her when he worked late on personal projects. She didn't argue. Resentment grew in small, sharp increments. He noticed how she spoke about her colleagues, laughing at inside jokes he wasn't part of, mentioning names he'd never heard. "Who's Marcus?" he asked once. Casual. "New creative director." "Brilliant." "Brilliant," he echoed, tone flat. She didn't catch the edge. He began tracking her hours in his head. 11 p.m. Home became midnight, then 1. Texts arrived less often during the day. When he sent "thinking of you," replies came hours later. Same busy meeting. He told himself it was temporary. She was building something extraordinary. He loved her ambition. Love meant supporting the person, not clipping their wings. Yet the loft felt emptier each week. Her art prints still hung on the walls, but her energy had moved elsewhere. He cooked for one more often. The coffee machine sat unused on mornings she left before he woke. He found himself talking to the plants on the windowsill, the only living things that stayed put. One evening he came home early from a client site. The place was dark. He flipped on the kitchen light and saw her laptop open on the counter, screen still glowing. An email thread visible, subject line drinks tomorrow, red dress still my favorite. Sender, Marcus. He closed the laptop gently, heart hammering. Didn't mention it. Didn't ask. Just sat in the armchair until she walked through the door at 12:47 a.m., smelling faintly of wine and someone else's cologne. "You're up," she said, surprised. "Couldn't sleep." She kissed his forehead. "I'm beat." "Shower then bed?" He nodded. She disappeared down the hall. He stayed in the chair, listening to water run, feeling the weight of invisibility settle over him like damp cloth. He wasn't her partner anymore. He was background noise, reliable, convenient, optional. The realization hit clean and cold. He had become an accessory in his own relationship, something she picked up when it suited her, set down when it didn't. The man who once whispered promises against her pulse now waited in silence for scraps of attention. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He simply sat there until the apartment grew still, then walked to the guest room and closed the door behind him for the first time. If you've ever felt invisible in your own relationship, smash that like button right now and tell me in the comments, what was the moment you knew it was dying? The morning started like any other Tuesday. Darius woke at 6:15, made coffee for two, set out Viviana's favorite mug, the white one with a faint gold rim. He heard her shower running, the familiar rhythm of her routine. When she emerged in a charcoal suit, hair still damp, he slid a plate of toast and avocado across the island. She glanced at it, then at him. "I'm not hungry." He nodded, took a sip of his own coffee. Big day. Always. She opened her laptop, eyes already scanning emails. He watched her for a moment, then reached into the drawer beside the sink and pulled out the thick envelope he had picked up from the mailbox the day before. Plain manila, no return address, her law firm's logo embossed in the corner. He placed it between them without a word. She looked up, frowned, opened it. The papers slid out smoothly. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Her signature already notarized on the last page. Darius sat across from her, hands flat on the granite. "You could have told me." "I tried." Her voice stayed even. "You weren't listening." He stared at the stack. 14 pages of legalese that reduced 10 years to bullet points. Irreconcilable differences, no fault grounds, request for equitable distribution. "Equitable," he repeated softly. She closed the laptop. "I need more than this life, Darius. More than quiet nights and predictable routines. I'm suffocating." He felt the air leave the room. "And I'm the suffocation?" "No. You're safe. Too safe. I want to feel alive again." The words hung there, sharp and final. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He simply stood, walked to the bedroom, and started packing a duffel with enough clothes for a week. When he returned to the kitchen, she was still sitting there, staring at the papers like they had surprised even her. "I'll be at a hotel," he said. "Send whatever else needs signing." She nodded once. No tears, no pleas. He left without looking back. The next 8 months blurred into a grinding routine of filings, depositions, and discovery requests. Viviana's attorney, a tall man in bespoke suits named Harlan Crow, moved with surgical precision. Every email, every text, every bank statement from the last 5 years became evidence of Darius's lack of ambition. Crow painted him as content to coast while Viviana propelled them forward. The prototypes Darius had built in the garage, early AI tools for personalized content curation, were classified as marital property because he had coded some of them during evenings at home. The loft, purchased with a down payment from her bonus, went to her. Investments, retirement accounts, even the vintage turntable they had bought together. On their first anniversary, all awarded to Viviana under equitable distribution. Darius's own lawyer, a kind but overworked public defender-style attorney he could barely afford, fought where he could. It wasn't enough. The judge, citing Viviana's higher earning capacity and primary financial contribution, granted her the bulk of the assets. Darius received his personal belongings, half the furniture he didn't care about, and a small cash equalization payment that covered maybe 6 months of rent. On the final hearing day, February 14, ironically, he sat alone in the gallery while Viviana's side filled 2 benches. She wore the same charcoal suit from that breakfast morning. When the judge pronounced the marriage dissolved, she didn't look at him. She simply gathered her papers and left. Darius walked out of the courthouse into a sleet that stung his face. He stood on the steps for a long minute, letting the cold soak through his coat, then drove straight to the nearest bar and ordered whiskey until the edges blurred. He didn't cry. He didn't rage. He simply sat until closing, paid his tab, and went back to the 1-bedroom he had rented in a tired part of the South Loop. Among the few boxes he had taken from the loft was the envelope from his late Uncle Thorn Hale. It had arrived 6 weeks before the final hearing, forwarded from the old family address in rural Illinois. Darius had opened it once, skimmed the note. "This is your inheritance, Darius. Poisonous secret that binds our bloodline. Use it wisely or let it consume you." Then, shoved it into a drawer. Grief and paperwork had buried it until now. 2 days after the decree, he pulled the envelope out again. Inside, a small brass key taped to a folded letter and a business card for a storage facility in Eldridge Hollow, 3 hours southwest of Chicago. The letter repeated the warning in Thorn's spidery handwriting. Darius stared at it for a long time, then grabbed his keys. The drive took 4 hours in winter traffic. Snow flurries turned to steady fall outside the city. He listened to silence, no radio, no podcasts, just the hum of tires on wet asphalt and the occasional scrape of wipers. Eldridge Hollow appeared like a memory, single main street, brick buildings from the 1920s, a bank that looked unchanged since the 1950s. The storage unit sat at the end of a row of identical orange doors. Number 47. The key turned smoothly. Inside, dust, cardboard boxes labeled in Thorn's hand, and one metal chest the size of a large suitcase. Darius dragged it into the light from the corridor bulb. The chest opened with a soft click. No lock. Just a leather-bound ledger, edges frayed, and a glass vial stoppered with wax, filled with a murky greenish fluid that caught the light and seemed to move on its own. He lifted the ledger first. Pages yellowed but legible. Thorn's entries began in 1962. I met Leora in the lab basement beneath the university chemistry building. She wore white coats like armor, but her laugh cut through the sterile air. We worked side by side on enzyme inhibitors, late nights blurring into mornings. I fell before I realized it, hard, helpless. She felt the same. We spoke of marriage, of a house near the lake, of children who would inherit our curiosity. Darius turned pages slowly. I wanted to give her forever. Not metaphor, literal. I isolated compounds from rare night-blooming vines shipped from the Amazon basin. The elixir heightened neural bonding, amplified oxytocin. Release made every touch feel like the first. We tested it together, small doses. Desire became consuming. She clung to me, whispered she could never leave. I thought I had won eternity. More entries, handwriting growing erratic. Then the side effects appeared. Paranoia first. She accused me of looking at colleagues too long. Jealousy followed, vicious, irrational. One night she found a stray hair on my coat and shattered a beaker against the wall. The elixir had not bound us, it had amplified every shadow in the heart. Love turned to obsession, obsession to rage. Leora's final weeks were torment. Hallucinations, accusations, violence. She died in my arms, eyes wide with terror she could no longer name. I sealed the formula away. The vial remains. The secret is in the blood. It awakens what we bury. Darius closed the ledger. His hands shook. The vial felt heavier than glass should. He stared at the swirling liquid, seeing not science, but a warning written in his own family line. He locked the chest, loaded it into his trunk, and drove back to Chicago through the dark. Snow thickened on the windshield. Somewhere between towns, he understood the moral in his bones. Some inheritances aren't wealth, they're curses disguised as blood. The new apartment sat on the 3rd floor of a brick building that had seen better decades. Paint peeled in long strips along the hallway ceiling, The elevator groaned like it might quit any day, and the hallway light flickered every time someone opened a door downstairs. Darius moved in on a grey Thursday in late February, carrying the last of his boxes up the narrow stairs because the elevator was out again. The one bedroom measured barely 400 square feet, a combined living kitchen space, a bathroom with cracked tiles, and a bedroom window that overlooked an alley where trash bins collected snow. He set the metal chest from the storage unit on the floor beside the bed first thing. Didn't open it. Just left it there like a silent roommate. The first night he tried to sleep on the mattress he had bought second-hand, firm enough, but the springs creaked with every shift. Streetlights bled through thin curtains, painting orange bars across the ceiling. He stared up, waiting for exhaustion to pull him under. It didn't. Instead, Viviana arrived in his mind, uninvited. He remembered the way she used to wake before him on weekends, slip out of bed naked, pad to the kitchen, then return with coffee. She'd set the mugs on the nightstand, climb back under the covers, press her body along his back, breasts soft against his spine, one leg hooking over his hip. Her fingers would trail down his stomach, slow circles, until he stirred. Then she'd whisper against his ear, mourning, and guide his hand between her thighs while she rocked gently against him. They moved together like that, lazy, unhurried, until sunlight filled the room and release came in quiet waves. Now the memory played on loop, sharper because it belonged to someone else's life. He rolled onto his side, punched the pillow, closed his eyes. Another scene surfaced, the night after her big promotion announcement. She had come home buzzing, kicked off her heels at the door, pulled him into the shower before he could ask questions. Water streamed hot over them. She pushed him against the tile, kissed him hard, dropped to her knees. Her mouth closed around him, slow at first, then deeper, eyes locked on his through the steam. When he groaned her name, she stood, turned, braced her hands on the wall. He entered her from behind, one arm around her waist, the other hand between her legs, matching her rhythm until she shuddered against him, crying out. They stayed like that, breathing together, water cooling on their skin. Darius opened his eyes. The ceiling bars had shifted. The clock read 2:47 a.m. He got up, walked to the kitchenette, poured water from the tap, drank standing at the sink. The chest waited in the bedroom doorway, a dark shape in the dim light. Back in bed, he tried again. Sleep refused. Another memory. Their trip to the cabin in Wisconsin 2 summers earlier. No Wi-Fi, no deadlines. They hiked during the day, cooked over the fire at night. After dinner, she pulled him outside to the porch swing, straddled his lap under the blanket, rocked slowly while stars wheeled overhead. Her breath came in short gasps against his neck. His hands gripped her hips, guiding her until they both tipped over the edge in silence, the night air cool on sweat-slick skin. He sat up, heart pounding. The room felt smaller. Weeks passed in that rhythm, work during the day, remote coding gigs that paid enough to cover rent and groceries, then nights alone with the ghosts. He cooked simple meals, ate standing at the counter, washed dishes immediately to avoid staring at empty space. The television stayed off most evenings. Sound felt intrusive. Hatred began as a small ember. At first it directed outward, toward Viviana for the cold efficiency of the divorce, for the way she had rewritten their history in court documents, for the life she continued building without pause. He scrolled her social media once, new profile picture, new city skyline in the background, new smile that didn't reach her eyes the way it used to. He closed the app, deleted the bookmark. Then the anger turned inward. Why hadn't he seen the distance growing? Why had he stayed quiet when silences replaced conversations? Why had he let himself become optional? The questions circled, feeding the ember until it glowed steady. One night in early April, he finally opened the chest again. The vial rested inside its foam cutout, greenish fluid catching the bedside lamp's weak glow. He lifted it carefully, held it to the light. Tiny motes drifted within, almost alive. The ledger lay beside it, open to the page where Thorne described the final weeks with Leora, her accusations, the shattered glassware, the way she looked at him like he was a stranger wearing her lover's face. Darius set the vial on the nightstand. stared at it. Every night after that, the ritual repeated. Work ended, dinner finished, dishes done. He sat on the edge of the bed, vial in hand, turning it slowly between his fingers. The liquid moved in lazy swirls, responding to the warmth of his palm. He never uncorked it, never tasted it, just watched. Some nights he spoke to it. Why her? He asked the glass. Why now? No answer came. Only the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the occasional car passing on the street below. Memories kept arriving, each one laced with sharper edges. Viviana laughing in the farmer's market, sunlight in her hair. Viviana asleep against his chest, breath warm on his collarbone. Viviana arching beneath him, nails digging into his shoulders, whispering harder until the world narrowed to the point where their bodies met. Each recall ended the same. Her walking out of the courtroom, back straight, not looking behind. Hatred no longer flickered. It burned low and constant, a heat he carried in his chest. It kept him awake longer each night. Coffee replaced sleep. Dark circles deepened under his eyes. He lost weight, cheekbones sharper, wrists bonier. The vial became the only constant. He moved it to the kitchen counter during the day so he could see it while working. At night, he carried it back to the bedside. Sometimes he held it against his forehead, cool glass on feverish skin, as if it could draw the heat out. One particular night, late May, rain drumming the window, he sat cross-legged on the floor, ledger open in his lap, vial beside him. He read Thorne's final entry aloud, voice rough from disuse. The secret is in the blood. It waits. It wakes. It destroys. He closed the book, picked up the vial, rolled it between his palms. Outside, thunder rolled low. Inside, the hatred settled deeper, no longer a visitor but a resident. He stared at the swirling green until his vision blurred. Sleep came eventually, fitful, shallow, haunted by the same touch he could no longer reach. June arrived humid and restless. Darius had stopped counting the exact days since the divorce finalized. The calendar on his phone stayed stuck on May 31st. Work kept him tethered. Endless lines of code for freelance clients who paid on time but never asked personal questions. Evenings stretched long. The apartment walls seemed to close in a little more each week. One Thursday night, he left the building for the first time in days that weren't for groceries. A small bar sat 2 blocks away, dim windows, neon sign half burned out reading Haven. No one he knew went there. Perfect. Inside smelled of old wood, spilled beer, and faint cigarette smoke that clung to the walls despite the ban. Low booths lined one side. A jukebox played something bluesy in the corner. He took a stool at the far end of the bar, ordered whiskey neat, stared into the glass like it might answer questions he hadn't asked yet. She appeared 20 minutes later. Ravenna slid onto the stool 2 seats down, black leather jacket over a faded band tee, dark hair loose and slightly damp from the evening drizzle outside. She carried a sketchbook tucked under her arm. The bartender, a woman with silver streaks and tired eyes, set a gin and tonic in front of her without asking. Ravenna glanced sideways, caught him looking, didn't smile, just lifted her glass in a small salute. "Rough week?" she asked. "Rough year," he answered. She laughed once, short, knowing. Same. They drank in silence for a while. The jukebox shifted to a slower track. She opened her sketchbook, flipped through pages filled with charcoal drawings, twisted figures, fractured faces, hands reaching but never touching. "You an artist?" he asked. "Freelance illustrator, mostly book covers. Sometimes I draw what's in my head so it stops screaming." He nodded. "I code." "Same reason." She turned another page. A woman with hollow eyes stared back from the paper. "X. Something like that. Mine left because my career was too unpredictable. Said he needed stability. Took the dog and half the savings." Darius raised his glass. "Two unpredictable careers." They clinked. The conversation opened slowly. Shared stories of betrayal delivered in flat tones, no dramatics. She talked about nights she painted until dawn to avoid sleeping alone. He mentioned the silence in his apartment that felt louder than any argument. Neither asked for details. Neither offered comfort. Just recognition. 2 drinks later, she leaned closer. "You smell like someone who hasn't been touched in a while." He met her eyes. Storm grey. Unflinching. That obvious. Only to someone who's been there. She paid her tab. Stood. Looked at him. "My place is 3 blocks. Walk with me." He did. Her apartment occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse. High ceilings, exposed brick, canvases leaning against every wall. 1 lamp burned low in the living room. She didn't turn on more lights. Just dropped her jacket, kicked off boots, faced him. No preamble. She stepped close, fingers curling into his shirt collar, pulled him down. Their mouths met hard, hungry, almost bruising. He tasted gin and salt on her tongue. Her hands shoved his jacket off his shoulders, while his slid under her tee, palms flat against warm skin. She backed him toward the couch. He lifted her, legs wrapping his waist. They collided, bodies pressing, breath ragged. Clothes came off in pieces, shirt over her head, his belt unbuckled with impatient tugs. She pushed him down onto the cushions, straddled his lap, ground against him through remaining fabric until he groaned into her mouth. Her nails raked his chest, leaving faint red lines. He gripped her hips, flipped them so she lay beneath him. She arched up, guiding him inside with one swift motion. They moved together, fast, desperate, no gentleness. Her moans filled the room, low and broken. His name escaped her lips once, twice, like a plea. He thrust deeper, harder, chasing the temporary obliteration of everything else. She clenched around him, head thrown back, crying out as release hit her first. He followed seconds later, burying his face in her neck, shuddering through the aftershocks. They stayed tangled, sweat cooling, breathing heavy. Neither spoke for a long minute. Eventually she traced a finger along his jaw. That was necessary. Yeah. She kissed him softer this time, almost tender. Stay. He did. The next weeks folded into a rhythm of need. They met most nights, sometimes at her place, sometimes his. No promises, no labels, just bodies seeking relief from the ache each carried. Early encounters stayed frantic, against the kitchen counter at her loft, her legs hooked over his shoulders on the living room floor, quick and rough in the shower with water pounding their backs. Moans echoed off brick walls, hands bruised hips and shoulders. Release came sharp and sudden. As days turned to weeks, the pace shifted slightly, still consuming but with longer edges. One humid July evening she lit candles, played slow jazz, pulled him to the bed with deliberate care. She undressed him piece by piece, kissed every inch of skin revealed, took him in her mouth until he trembled on the edge, then climbed over him, sinking down slow, rolling her hips in languid circles. He watched her face, eyes half closed, lips parted, while she rode him with focused intensity. When she leaned forward, breasts brushing his chest, he gripped her waist, matched her rhythm until they both shattered together, her forehead pressed to his, breaths mingling. Afterward she curled against him, head on his shoulder. "This doesn't fix anything," she murmured. "I know, but it helps." He stroked her hair. Yeah. They talked more in those quiet intervals, about exes who left holes, about the way pain reshaped trust. She showed him sketches inspired by their nights, abstract forms entwined, shadows bleeding into light. He read her bits of code he was proud of, explained the logic like poetry. Neither pretended this was love. It was survival. The affair grew more consuming. Days without seeing her felt flat, colorless. He caught himself smiling at texts, doors unlocked. Bring whiskey. Nights without her touch left him restless, staring at the ceiling, vial on the nightstand glowing faintly in moonlight. One particular Saturday, mid-August, air thick with coming rain. They spent the entire day in her loft. Morning started slow, coffee in bed, her straddling him again, moving with lazy precision until morning light turned golden. Afternoon blurred into more, on the rug, against the wall back to bed, each time built higher, more urgent. By evening they lay exhausted, sheets twisted, bodies marked with faint bites and fingerprints. She propped on one elbow, traced the line of his collarbone. "You're disappearing into this. So are you." She smiled, small, sad. "Maybe that's the point." He pulled her down, kissed her deeply, rolled her beneath him once more. This time slower, almost reverent. He moved inside her with measured strokes, watching every flicker across her face. She wrapped legs around his waist, pulled him closer, whispered his name like a secret. When climax built, she clung tight, nails digging in, crying out as waves crashed through her. He followed, collapsing over her, hearts hammering in unison. They lay thereafter, silent except for slowing breaths. If this kind of fire ever burned in your life, good or bad, like this video right now, drop a fire emoji in comment below, share with a friend who understands dangerous desire, and subscribe for more stories that don't hold back. Late August brought a heat wave that turned the city into a slow cooker. Windows stayed open day and night, fans hummed uselessly against the thick air. Darius and Ravenna spent most evenings at her loft. Higher ceilings, better cross breeze, fewer neighbors to complain about noise. The metal chest remained in his apartment, but he brought the ledger with him more often now, leaving it on her coffee table like a shared secret. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday evening in early September. They had just finished dinner, take-out Thai spread across the low table. Ravenna scrolled through her phone while he cleared plates. A notification pinged. She glanced at it, smiled faintly, typed a quick reply. "Who's that?" Darius asked. "Casual." "Client. Wants revisions by morning." He nodded, returned to the sink. But the smile lingered in his mind, small, private. When he came back, she was still typing. "Same client?" he asked. She looked up. "Yeah. Why?" "Just wondering." She set the phone face down. "You're wondering if it's someone else. I didn't say that. You didn't have to." She stood, crossed her arms. "After everything we've shared, you still think I'd sneak around?" He exhaled. "I'm not accusing. Just asking." The room cooled despite the heat. She stepped closer. "You're asking because Viviana left scars. I get it, but I'm not her." He reached for her hand. She let him take it, but her fingers stayed stiff. They ended up in bed anyway, clothes shed fast, bodies colliding with familiar force. Yet something felt off. Her kisses carried an edge, teeth catching his lower lip harder than before. When he moved inside her, she gripped his shoulders tight enough to leave marks, hips rising to meet him almost challengingly. Release came quick for both, but afterward she rolled away immediately, back to him. He stared at the ceiling. "I'm sorry." She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, "Don't apologize. Just trust me." He wanted to. He tried. The ledger waited on the table the next morning. While Ravenna showered, Darius opened it to a section he had skimmed before. Thorne's handwriting grew tighter here, ink darker. The elixir does not create love, it magnifies what already exists. In small doses it heightens attachment, makes every glance feel like destiny. But the heart is never pure. Jealousy, fear, resentment, these too are amplified. What begins as devotion twists into possession. Leora started watching my every move, questioning letters from colleagues, searching my coat pockets. The compound fed her doubts until they became certainty. I thought I could control it. I was wrong. The darkness we carry is patient. It waits for a crack, then floods through. Darius closed the book when the shower stopped. Ravenna emerged wrapped in a towel, hair dripping. She saw the ledger open. "Reading your uncle's horror stories again?" "Warnings," he corrected. She sat beside him. "You think that stuff is real?" "I don't know what to think." She took the book, flipped a few pages. "He sounds like he hated himself more than anything. Maybe." She set it aside, pulled him close. "Then don't let it in here." Her kiss started soft, turned insistent. They moved to the bedroom again, morning light slanting through blinds. This time she pinned his wrists above his head, rode him with deliberate control, eyes locked on his like she needed to see every flicker of surrender. He let her lead, but when he tried to roll them over, she resisted, nails digging into his forearms. "Stay," she whispered. Command more than request. He stayed. The possessiveness crept in gradually. By mid-September, small comments surfaced. "You're texting a lot today," she'd say when his phone buzzed during dinner. "Work," he'd reply. She'd nod, but her jaw tightened. One Friday night, they went out, rare for them, a dimly lit jazz club downtown. She wore a black dress that clung in all the right places, heads turned when they walked in. Darius felt a flicker of pride. Then he noticed her watching him watch the room. "You like her?" she asked, nodding toward a woman at the bar. "What?" "The brunette in the red top." "You looked twice." "I was looking at the bartender, trying to flag him for another round." She smiled thinly. "Sure." They left early. In the cab ride home, her hand rested on his thigh, tight, almost claiming. Back at her place, clothes hit the floor before the door fully closed. She pushed him against the wall, bit his neck hard enough to sting, guided him inside her standing up. Thrusts came fast, almost punishing. Mid-act, she stopped, gripped his face. "You're mine, right?" He nodded, breathless. "Yeah, say it. I'm yours." She resumed, harder, until they both broke apart against the wall, her cry sharp in his ear. After, on the floor, she traced the fresh bite mark. "Sorry." Got carried away. He touched it. Tender. "It's fine." But it wasn't. Dreams started that same week. In the first one, Viviana stood in the doorway of Ravenna's loft. Same black dress, same red lipstick. She smiled the way she used to in court, calm, victorious. "You replaced me already?" she asked. "How sweet." She stepped closer, ran a finger down his chest. "She'll leave too." "They always do." He tried to speak. No sound came. Viviana laughed softly, turned to Ravenna, who suddenly wasn't Ravenna anymore, but Viviana again, eyes cold. "You thought you could escape me." He woke, gasping, sheets soaked. Ravenna slept beside him, undisturbed. The dreams repeated, different settings, same taunt. Viviana in his old loft kitchen, stirring coffee he used to make for her. Viviana in the courthouse hallway, whispering, "I took everything because you let me." Viviana in Ravenna's bed, straddling him while Ravenna watched from the corner, silent. Each morning he woke earlier, stared at the ceiling until light crept in. Ravenna noticed the shadows under his eyes. "You okay?" she asked one Sunday afternoon. They were on the couch, her legs over his lap, sketchbook open. "Bad dreams." "About her?" He nodded. She set the book down. "She's gone, Darius. Let her stay gone." "I'm trying." She leaned in, kissed him slow. Then, "Let me help." They moved to the bedroom. This time, gentler at first. Her on top, hands soft on his chest, pace unhurried. But halfway through, her grip tightened on his shoulders. "Look at me," she demanded. "Only me." He did. She sped up, hips grinding, voice low. "No one else gets this. No one." He came hard, mind blank for a moment. She followed, collapsing over him, breathing ragged. Later, while she slept, he slipped out of bed. The ledger waited on the dresser. He opened it again, read by phone light. Once the shadows take root, passion becomes chain. Every touch a claim, every absence a betrayal. I watched Leora turn love into surveillance. I watched her break. And I did nothing until it was too late. He closed the book, looked at Ravenna's sleeping form, beautiful, fierce, already marked by his hands. The shadows had begun to creep. October arrived with crisp mornings that carried the promise of frost. Leaves turned bronze along the lakefront paths, but Darius rarely walked them anymore. He and Ravenna had fallen into a pattern, 3 or 4 nights a week at her loft, the rest in his apartment where the ledger and vial waited like patient sentinels. Work remained steady. Remote contracts that paid the bills without requiring smiles or small talk. The dreams of Viviana had eased slightly, appearing only once or twice a week now, though each visit left him waking with a metallic taste in his mouth. The email landed on a Wednesday afternoon in mid-October. Subject: unfinished business, joint assets. From Viviana Reyes. He stared at the sender line for 30 seconds before opening it. Darius, hope this finds you well. My accountant flagged a few overlooked items from the settlement. The vintage turntable, still in storage, some mutual fund shares we never transferred, and a small brokerage account I missed in Discovery. I'd like to resolve this cleanly. Can we meet for coffee next week? Neutral ground. Let me know what works best, Viviana. No warmth, no regret, just efficiency. His fingers hovered over the reply button. Rage arrived slow at first, then surged hot behind his eyes. He typed one word, fine, sent it, then deleted the thread. The rest of the day passed in a haze of code he barely remembered writing. They met the following Tuesday at a small cafe near the river. Exposed brick, low booths, the kind of place that felt anonymous. He arrived early, chose a corner table facing the door. When she walked in, time stuttered. Viviana looked better than he remembered. Hair cut short, a sleek bob that framed her face. Navy coat over a cream sweater, boots polished, posture confident. She carried a slim folder under one arm. No rings on her fingers. She spotted him, offered a small professional smile, and approached. Darius, Viviana. She sat across from him. No hug, no lingering eye contact. Just business. She opened the folder, slid printouts across the table. The turntable was appraised at 800. The shares are worth about 12,000 now. The brokerage account has 4,000 in dividends sitting untouched. I propose we split the value evenly after fees. He stared at the numbers, then at her face, smooth, composed, thriving. You look good, he said. Flat, thank you. New city, new role. Senior VP now. Congratulations. She tilted her head. You sound sincere. I'm not. A brief silence. She folded her hands. I didn't come to fight, just to close this chapter. He leaned forward. You closed it when you served papers over breakfast. You closed it in court. You closed it when you walked out without looking back. Her jaw tightened, just a fraction. I did what I needed to do. And I'm left with what? A one-bedroom and memories you don't want? She glanced around, lowered her voice. This isn't productive. He laughed once. Short, bitter. Productive. That's always been your favorite word. She gathered the papers. I'll have my attorney send a formal proposal. Sign or don't. Up to you. She stood. He watched her button her coat, adjust her scarf, turn toward the door. At the last second, she paused, looked back. Take care of yourself, Darius. Then she was gone. He sat there until the coffee went cold. Rage no longer boiled. It simmered, thick and steady, coating every thought. He paid the bill, walked home through gathering dusk, the wind cutting through his jacket. In the apartment, he went straight to the nightstand. The vial waited, greenish contents catching the lamp's glow. He uncorked it for the first time. The stopper came away with a soft pop. A faint herbal scent rose. Bitter greens, something metallic underneath. One drop. That was all he intended. He tilted the vial over his tongue. The liquid hit warm, then burned like cheap liquor down his throat. He swallowed, recorked, set it back. Nothing at first. He sat on the bed, waited. 10 minutes later, the room sharpened. The hum of the refrigerator downstairs grew distinct, layered. Street sounds filtered through the window, tires on wet pavement, distant laughter, a car horn blocks away, each crisp, separate. His skin prickled, every thread of his shirt registered against his arms. Colors intensified, the faded blue of the bedsheet, the dull brass of the lamp base. His heartbeat sounded loud in his ears, steady but insistent. Then, the shift deepened. Thoughts raced faster. Ravenna's smile from last night replayed. Had it been too quick? Too practiced? The text she sent that morning, running late, client call. Why no emoji? Why no miss you? Small things, once ignorable, now loomed large. He paced the small room. The paranoia arrived quiet at first, then insistent. She was pulling away. She had someone else. She pitied him. His phone buzzed. Ravenna, doors open. Come over when you're done working. He stared at the message. Read it 3 times. No heart, no fire emoji. Just functional. He grabbed his keys. Her loft smelled of fresh paint. She had been working on a new series. Canvases leaned against walls, dark figures entwined, edges bleeding red and black. She greeted him in an oversized sweater, nothing underneath, hair loose. "You're early," she said, smiling. He didn't smile back. Pulled her close, kissed her hard. She responded instantly, hands sliding under his jacket, nails scraping his back. They stumbled toward the bedroom, shedding layers along the way. This time felt different from the start. She tried to slow him, to kiss his neck, to trace his chest. He didn't let her. He pushed her against the headboard, hands rough on her hips, mouth claiming hers with bruising force. She gasped, half laughing, "Slow down." He didn't. Entered her in one thrust, deep and sudden. She arched, moaned, wrapped legs around him. But the rhythm he set was relentless, fast, accusing. Every movement felt like a question. Who else gets this? Who else hears you like this? Mid-thrust, she grabbed his face. "Look at me." He did. Her eyes searched his. "What's wrong?" "You tell me." His voice came low, edged. She frowned. "Nothing's wrong." He thrust harder. Then why the late texts? Why the short messages? She tightened around him, breath catching. "Darius, stop. Talk to me." He didn't stop. "You're pulling away." "I can feel it." "I'm not." Her nails dug into his shoulders. "I'm right here." "Liar." The word slipped out before he could catch it. She froze, then shoved at his chest. He didn't move. She shoved harder. "Get off." He pulled out, rolled to the side, breathing heavy. She sat up, pulled the sheet around herself. "What the hell was that?" she asked. He stared at the ceiling. "I don't know." She touched his arm. "You're scaring me." The heightened senses made her voice sound too loud, too close. He flinched. "I saw her today." "Viviana?" He nodded. "And?" "She's fine, thriving, new job, new life." Didn't even blink. Ravenna exhaled. "That's her loss." He turned to her. "Is it? Or is it mine?" She reached for him again. "Come here." This time she guided him, slow, deliberate. Lay back, pulled him over her. "Just us," she whispered. "No ghosts." He tried, kissed her softer, moved inside her with measured strokes. She moaned quietly, hands gentle on his back. But the paranoia lingered. Every sigh she made, did it sound rehearsed? Every touch, did it feel calculated? When she came, arching beneath him, he followed. But the release felt hollow, tainted by suspicion. Afterward, she curled against him. "Talk to me. Really talk." He stared into the dark. "I think something's wrong with me." She kissed his shoulder. "We'll figure it out." He didn't answer. The drop still burned faintly in his throat, senses still too sharp, thoughts still racing. Outside, the city hummed on. Inside, the shadows had found their first real foothold. By late October, the elixir's single drop had settled into Darius like a second pulse. He hadn't taken another, not yet, but the change lingered. Sounds arrived sharper, colors brighter, every heartbeat louder in his ears. The world felt too vivid, too close. Thoughts that once drifted now raced in tight circles, always circling back to betrayal. He started with Viviana's public profiles again, one sleepless night around Halloween. Her LinkedIn had updated, new headshot, professional bio listing senior vice president, global brand strategy. Posts celebrated team wins, conference appearances, a recent trip to New York for a client pitch. Comments poured in, congratulations from colleagues, heart emojis from friends he vaguely remembered. One photo showed her at a rooftop bar, city lights behind her, arm around a tall man in a dark suit. Caption, grateful for great partners in work and life. No name tagged, no explanation. Darius stared at the image until his eyes burned. The man's hand rested on her lower back, casual, possessive. He scrolled backward, Older posts from summer, her laughing at outdoor dinners, new apartment tours, a weekend getaway to a cabin that looked suspiciously like the one they once shared. No direct mentions of anyone new, but the absence screamed louder than words. He created a private browser window. Searched her name plus boyfriend. Nothing concrete. Searched the man's face. Reverse image from a zoomed screenshot. Found a profile on a professional networking site. Ethan Caldwell, marketing executive at the same firm. Recent posts tagged her in group photos. One from 2 months earlier, team dinner with the best in the biz. She sat beside him, heads close, both smiling. Darius closed the tab, opened it again, saved the screenshots to a hidden folder labeled Research, closed the laptop, lay in the dark, jaw clenched, imagining her in that cabin, in that bed, with someone else's hands on her. The next time he saw Ravenna, November 2nd, a Friday evening, she opened the door wearing only his old button-down shirt, sleeves rolled, top buttons undone. She pulled him inside, kissed him deep, led him straight to the bedroom. They started slow. She undressed him with deliberate care, kissed down his chest, took him in her mouth until his knees weakened. He pulled her up, laid her on the bed, moved between her legs. But the slowness didn't last. Halfway through, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She reached for it instinctively. "Don't," he said. "It might be work. Leave it." She hesitated. The screen lit again. She glanced. He stopped moving. "Who is it?" "No one important." "Show me." "Darius." "Show me." She sighed, handed him the phone. A text from a contact named Jules. "Drinks tomorrow. Miss your face." He stared at the words. Jules. Old friend from art school. Harmless. Harmless. He set the phone down hard. "You didn't mention drinks." "Because it's not set. And it's not a date." He rolled off her. Sat on the edge of the bed. "You're pulling away." "I'm not." "You are. Texts get shorter. You look at your phone more. You smile at messages I don't see." She sat up, pulled the sheet around herself. "This is the elixir talking. You've been different since that drop. Don't blame the vial, blame the truth." She touched his back. "There is no truth here except what you're making up." He turned, eyes hard. "Then prove it." She studied him for a long moment, then leaned in, kissed him fiercely. "Fine. Prove I'm still yours." They collided again, this time brutal. He pinned her wrists above her head, thrust deep and fast, no pause for breath. She gasped, arched, fought against his grip, not to escape, but to match the force. Nails raked his arms, drawing thin lines of blood. He bit her shoulder, hard enough to mark. She cried out, half pain, half pleasure, legs locking around his waist. No tenderness remained, only raw need laced with anger. "Say you're mine," he growled against her ear. "I'm yours," she panted. Louder, "I'm yours." He drove harder, pace punishing. She shouted his name as climax hit her, sharp, almost violent. He followed, collapsing over her, both slick with sweat, chests heaving. Afterward, she lay still, breathing ragged. Bruises bloomed on her wrists where he'd held her. A dark bite mark stood out on her shoulder. She touched it, winced slightly, then looked at him. "That hurt," she said quietly. "Good." She didn't flinch. Instead, she traced the scratches on his arms. "You're changing." "So are you." She didn't deny it. "I feel it too. The intensity. It pulls me in, even when it scares me." He rolled onto his back. "I can't stop seeing her with him." "Viviana?" He nodded. Ravenna propped on one elbow. "She's gone." "Let her go." "I'm trying." "Try harder." The next weeks blurred into a cycle of accusation and reconciliation through flesh. Early November, he found a new photo on Viviana's feed. Her and Ethan at a gallery opening, her hand on his arm. Darius showed Ravenna the screenshot during dinner. "See?" Ravenna glanced. "It's a photo. Doesn't mean anything. It means everything." They argued. Voices rose. Then silence. Then the bedroom. This time, she shoved him onto the mattress, climbed on top, rode him with fierce control, hips slamming down, hands pressing his shoulders into the sheets. He gripped her thighs hard enough to leave fingerprints. She leaned forward, bit his lip until he tasted copper. When she came, she shouted, anger and ecstasy tangled. He flipped her over, took her from behind, one hand fisted in her hair, pulling just enough to arch her back. No words, only grunts, slaps of skin, her muffled cries into the pillow. After, she curled against him despite the marks. This can't keep going like this. It's the only thing that feels real. She didn't answer. Mid-November, another late-night scroll. Viviana posted a story. Her in a hotel room, champagne glass raised, caption celebrating wins, Ethan's sleeve visible in the frame. Darius paced the apartment for an hour, then drove to Ravenna's at 1 a.m. She let him in, sleepy-eyed. You okay? No. She pulled him to bed without questions. This time slower at first, almost careful. But suspicion flared when her phone lit up again. He grabbed it before she could. Another text from Jules. Still on for Saturday. He threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall, cracked. What the hell, Darius? Who is Jules really? A friend. Friends don't text at 1 in the morning. She stood, naked, furious. You're losing it. Am I? Or am I finally seeing clearly? She stepped close, chest to chest. If you don't trust me, leave. He didn't leave. Instead, he kissed her. Hard, desperate. She kissed back just as hard. They fell onto the floor, carpet rough against skin. He entered her roughly, thrusts punishing. She clawed his back, drew blood again. Shouts filled the room, his accusations, her denials, both dissolving into moans as bodies chased release. Bruises formed on her hips where his fingers dug in. Her thighs trembled when she came, voice breaking on his name. He finished inside her with a low growl, collapsing beside her on the hard floor. They lay there, breathing hard, bodies marked. Ravenna touched the fresh scratches on his shoulders. This isn't love anymore. It's all I have left. She looked at him, long, searching. Then I guess I'm staying for it. She sensed the change, clearly, painfully. Yet, the raw force of it drew her deeper. Every fight ended in bruising sex. Every accusation dissolved in sweat and shouts. Tenderness had vanished. Only lust mixed with violence remained. And Darius kept scrolling, kept saving screenshots, kept feeding the fire that burned hotter each day. Thanksgiving passed unnoticed in early November. Darius spent it alone in his apartment, staring at a cold turkey sandwich he never finished. Ravenna had invited him to her place, but he declined, said he had a deadline. The truth was simpler. The vial had become his constant companion. He carried it in his jacket pocket now, a small weight that pressed against his ribs every time he moved. The single drop from weeks earlier had never fully left his system. Senses stayed heightened, thoughts stayed jagged. He took no more, told himself he wouldn't, but the temptation sat heavy. Ravenna noticed the distance. Texts grew shorter on both sides. When they met, intimacy still happened, but it carried a frantic edge, like two people trying to outrun something neither could name. The breaking point arrived on a Friday night in late November. Snow had started falling early that year, fat flakes drifting past streetlights, turning the city quiet. Ravenna texted at 8:17 p.m., "Come over. We need to talk." He arrived at her loft just after 9. She opened the door wearing an oversized sweater and leggings, hair pulled into a messy knot. No kiss hello. She stepped aside, let him in, closed the door softly. The living room smelled of fresh coffee and turpentine. A new canvas leaned against the wall, dark reds and blacks swirling into shapes that looked almost like faces screaming. She gestured to the couch. "Sit." He sat. She remained standing. "You've been different," she started. "Since that drop, paranoid, accusing. The sex, it's not us anymore. It's something else." He stared at the floor. "I know. Then stop it. Throw the vial away. Whatever it is, get rid of it." His hand went to his pocket instinctively. The glass felt warm through the fabric. I can't. Why not? Because it's the only thing that makes sense of any of this. She exhaled sharply. That's the poison talking. He looked up. Maybe. Or maybe it's just showing me what was always there. Silence stretched. Snow tapped the windows like soft fingers. Ravenna crossed to the kitchen counter, poured 2 mugs of coffee, set one in front of him. When she turned back, her eyes caught the slight bulge in his jacket pocket. What's that? Nothing. She stepped closer. Show me. He didn't move. She reached. He caught her wrist. Firm, not gentle. Don't. Her eyes narrowed. You're hiding something. Let it go. She twisted free, lunged for the pocket. He stood fast, chair scraping. They grappled, her hands clawing at his coat, his arms blocking. The vial slipped out, clattered to the hardwood floor between them. Time slowed. Ravenna stared at the glass tube, the greenish liquid swirling inside. Recognition hit her face. That's it. The thing from your uncle. He bent to grab it. She kicked it away, hard. The vial skittered across the floor, rolling under the coffee table. Ravenna, she dove after it. He lunged too. Their bodies collided, knees, elbows, shoulders. She reached first, fingers closing around the glass. He grabbed her arm, yanked. The stopper popped free in the struggle. A splash of liquid hit her hand, then her lips as she instinctively licked the spill away. No. He shouted. Too late. She froze, eyes wide. The taste hit. Bitter, burning. She swallowed reflexively. Darius stared. How much? She wiped her mouth. A drop. Maybe 2. The room tilted. At first, nothing. Then the edges sharpened again, same as his first taste, but faster, stronger. Colors bled at the corners. Sounds layered. Her breathing. The snow against glass. His own heartbeat thundering. Ravenna blinked hard. Darius. Everything's too loud. He felt it too. The loft walls seemed to breathe. Shadows stretched longer. Her face flickered. Beautiful 1 second, then overlaid with Viviana's cold smile. You did this. Viviana's voice whispered in his head. Ravenna clutched her throat. I see faces. In the corners, he reached for her. She recoiled. Don't touch me. Ravenna. It's me. You're lying. Her voice cracked. You're him. The one who left. The one who took everything. He shook his head. That's not real. She laughed. High. Broken. It feels real. The hallucinations crashed in fully. To Darius, Ravenna's form shifted. Her hair darkened to Viviana's shade. Her eyes turned accusing. She grew taller, thinner, wearing the charcoal suit from the cafe. You let me take it all, she said in Viviana's voice. Because you were weak. He backed away. Stop. She advanced. You replaced me with her, but she'll leave too. They all leave. Ravenna, still Ravenna underneath, lunged. Nails raked his cheek. Blood welled hot. He shoved her back. She stumbled, hit the coffee table, glass shattering somewhere. To her, Darius became a monster, face elongated, eyes black pits, hands claws. You're just like the others, the monster growled. Using me, leaving marks, breaking me. She screamed, raw, throat-tearing, clawed at his arms, his chest. He grabbed her wrists, tried to hold her still. She twisted, bit his forearm deep enough to draw blood. He roared, shoved harder. They crashed into the wall, pictures falling, frames cracking. The vial lay on the floor between them, stopper gone, liquid pooling in a small green stain. Ravenna broke free, grabbed a shard of broken frame, jagged wood and glass. She swung. He ducked. The shard sliced his shoulder. Stop! He shouted. She didn't. Tears streamed down her face. You poisoned me. He tackled her. They hit the floor hard. The vial rolled toward them. Then under his knee. Glass crunched. The remaining contents spilled out, soaking into the rug, mixing with blood from their cuts. The smell rose, Bitter herbs, copper, something metallic and wrong. Hallucinations peaked. Darius saw the room fill with versions of Viviana, dozens, circling, laughing softly. "Look what you've done," they chorused. "You destroyed her like you destroyed us." Ravenna saw Darius multiply, each version reaching, grabbing, tearing. "Mine," they hissed. "All mine." She clawed at the nearest one, his face. Nails tore skin. He screamed, grabbed her throat, not to choke, but to hold her still. She kicked, knee connecting with his stomach. Air left him in a rush. They rolled, grappling, shouting accusations that made no sense anymore. "You took everything. You never trusted me. You left. You lied." The room spun. Blood smeared the floor. The spilled elixir soaked into cracks, green veins spreading across the wood. Finally, exhaustion hit. They collapsed apart, panting, bleeding, staring at each other through the haze. Ravenna's eyes cleared for a second. "Darius?" He blinked. Her face swam back into focus, bruised, scratched, terrified. The hallucinations receded slowly, leaving ringing ears and pounding hearts. The vial lay shattered beside them, glass fragments glittering, liquid gone. They lay there, side by side, not touching, as snow continued to fall outside, soft and indifferent. The love that once burned bright had become horror, clawing, screaming, broken. And the echo of that final frenzied moment, the woman he craved lunging at him across shattered glass, nails raking, blood mixing with green poison, had finally arrived in full. Morning light cut through the loft windows in thin, pale blades. Snow had stopped sometime before dawn. Now the city outside looked muffled, white, indifferent. Inside, the air smelled of blood, spilled coffee, and the faint herbal rot from the broken vial. Darius woke first, sprawled on the floor beside the couch, one arm numb under his body, cheek pressed to hardwood sticky with drying blood. Ravenna lay a few feet away, curled on her side, breathing shallow but steady. Her sweater was torn at the shoulder, wrists ringed with dark bruises, fresh scratches crisscrossing her forearms. A shallow cut above her eyebrow had crusted over. Glass fragments glittered around them like cruel confetti. He sat up slowly. The room spun once, then steadied. Every muscle ached, his shoulder throbbed where the frame shard had sliced him. He looked at her, really looked, and felt nothing but a dull, hollow recognition. This was the end of whatever they had been trying to hold on to. Sirens wailed closer. Someone in the building must have heard the screams, the crashes. He stood on unsteady legs, stepped over broken glass, found his phone on the kitchen counter. Screen cracked but still functional. No messages, no missed calls. Just the time, 7:14 a.m. He knelt beside Ravenna, touched her cheek gently. She flinched awake, eyes wide and unfocused. "Darius? It's me." She tried to sit up, winced, touched her head. "What happened?" "The vial. We both—" He couldn't finish. Her gaze drifted to the shattered glass on the floor, the green stains soaked into the rug. Memory returned in fragments. She pulled away from his hand. "You poisoned me. I didn't mean—" "You held it. You kept it. You brought it here." Sirens grew louder, 2 blocks away now. She stood on shaking legs, backed toward the bedroom. "Get out, Ravenna. Get out." He didn't argue. Grabbed his coat from the floor, slipped on shoes without tying them, left the loft without looking back. The door clicked shut behind him with finality. Outside, snow crunched underfoot. He walked, fast at first, then slower, until the sirens faded. He ended up at his own building, climbed the stairs, locked himself inside the one bedroom that had become his prison months earlier. He didn't turn on lights. Sat on the mattress in the dim glow from the window. The chest still sat beside the bed. He opened it mechanically, pulled out the ledger one last time. Thorne's final entry, written in a hand that shook so badly the ink had bled. "No redemption here. The secret consumes all who touch it." I watched Leora die by my own formula. I watched myself die beside her, long before the end came. There is no cure, no forgiveness, no second chance. The darkness wakes and stays awake. I die alone, as must you. Darius closed the book, set it aside, lay back on the mattress, and stared at the ceiling. He didn't call the police, didn't go to a hospital, didn't reach out to anyone. Days blurred. He stopped answering texts. Ravenna's number appeared once, 2 days after the loft, then never again. He didn't reply. Work emails piled up unanswered. Clients dropped him after a week of silence. Rent came due in December. He paid it from savings, then let the account drain. He stayed inside. Curtains drawn, lights off. Food delivery bags accumulated outside the door until the building manager left a note threatening eviction. He ordered less, ate less, slept in fits, waking to Viviana's laughter in his head, to Ravenna's screams, to Thorne's warning looping endlessly. Viviana moved forward untouched. He checked her profiles one last time on New Year's Eve, alone in the dark, phone screen the only light. She had posted a holiday photo, her and Ethan on a balcony somewhere warm, ocean behind them, both smiling wide. Caption, grateful for new beginnings. Likes poured in. Comments wished them joy. She looked radiant, untouched, unscarred. He deleted the app, threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and went silent. Ravenna recovered, physically. Word reached him through a mutual acquaintance months later. She had moved to a smaller studio across town, stopped taking commissions for a while, then started again. Darker work now. Figures trapped in webs, hands reaching through cracks they could never escape. She never spoke his name publicly, never reached out. The scars on her wrists faded to thin white lines. The ones inside stayed. Darius faded. By spring, the building manager forced entry after weeks of unanswered knocks. Found him thinner, unshaven, sitting on the floor beside the empty chest. No fight left. Paramedics came. He went quietly. Hospital first, then a low-security facility where doctors spoke in careful terms. Trauma response, possible delusional disorder, history of substance exposure. He didn't correct them, didn't explain the vial, didn't mention the bloodline. He spoke little, ate what was placed in front of him, stared out windows at skies he no longer felt part of. The poison had claimed him fully, not through another drop, but through the first one that had opened every wound wider until nothing remained to close them. Some poisons have no cure. Some loves were never meant to be saved. Guard your heart. Because once the darkness awakens, it never goes back to sleep. Years passed in quiet succession. The loft on the top floor of the old warehouse changed hands twice. First rented by a young couple who lasted 6 months before the strange stains on the rug and the faint herbal smell that never quite left drove them out. Then bought by an investor who gutted it for modern condos. The building's new residents never knew the history etched into the floorboards beneath fresh hardwood. They walked over the spot where glass had shattered and blood had mixed with poison, never feeling the echo. Darius Hale's name faded from public records faster than most expected. The brief police report from that November night described a domestic disturbance involving possible substance exposure, but no charges were filed. Ravenna refused to press any, citing mutual fault and trauma. The hospital stay ended in a quiet discharge to outpatient care. After that, he simply disappeared from view. No social media revival, no LinkedIn updates, no sightings in the old neighborhoods. By 2028, the few people who once knew him, colleagues from freelance gigs, distant cousins, spoke of him in past tense, if at all. He just stopped, one said at a reunion coffee meetup, like he erased himself. Ravenna Voss rebuilt slowly. She moved to a smaller studio in Pilsen, changed her last name back to her mother's maiden name for privacy, and returned to illustration with a sharper edge. Her work gained a small but devoted following in underground art circles, dark, textured pieces of figures trapped in their own embraces, hands reaching through thorns they had grown themselves. She never married, never spoke publicly about that night. The thin white scars on her wrists and the faint line above her eyebrow became part of her personal map. She covered them with long sleeves and strategic makeup for gallery openings. Friends noticed she tensed at sudden loud noises. avoided green-tinted drinks at bars, and never kept houseplants that required much care. She lived alone, painted late into the night, and kept the lights on when she slept. Viviana Reyes climbed higher. By 2030, she had her own boutique agency in New York, a sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. She married Ethan Caldwell in a private ceremony on a vineyard in Napa. Small guest list, tasteful photos shared only with close contacts. They had a daughter 2 years later, a son after that. Social media glimpses showed a polished life, family vacations in Santorini, holiday cards with coordinated outfits, captions about gratitude and growth. She never mentioned Darius by name again. If guilt ever surfaced, it stayed buried beneath layers of success and new routines. She thrived, untouched, unscarred, moving forward as if the past had been neatly archived and deleted. The story itself refused to die completely. It started as whispers in Chicago's tighter creative circles, artists who knew Ravenna, coders who had once worked with Darius. By 2029 it had spread wider, a cautionary urban legend passed in late-night bars, Reddit threads titled "The Poisoned Inheritance," anonymous posts on true crime forums. Details shifted with each retelling. Some said the vial contained a government experiment gone wrong, others claimed it was an ancient family curse tied to alchemical roots in the 1800s. The core remained unchanged. A man stripped bare by divorce inherits a toxic legacy from his bloodline, tries to rebuild with new love, and watches everything collapse into violence and madness. No heroes, no second chances, just ruin. People shared it the way they share ghost stories around campfires, not to frighten exactly, but to remind. Don't let old wounds decide your next one, one commenter wrote under a viral thread. Some poisons don't need a second dose, they just need time. Another added, if love starts feeling like surveillance, run, before it turns into something you can't escape. No one ever found the ledger. It disappeared sometime after Darius's hospital discharge, perhaps burned in a fit of clarity, perhaps lost in a move he never completed. The chest sat empty in a storage locker he stopped paying for. The unit was auctioned off in 2031, contents sold as scrap. Whatever remained of Thorn Hale's words vanished with it. In the end, the tale became a shadow that lingered over certain hearts, those who had tasted betrayal's aftertaste and recognized its flavor in someone else's story. It taught nothing uplifting, no grand redemption, no triumphant return to trust, only the quiet, unrelenting warning that some darkness, once awakened, claims permanent residence. Some poisons have no cure. Some loves were never meant to be saved. Guard your heart, because once the darkness awakens, it never goes back to sleep. If this story shook you, reminded you how fragile love really is, like if you're grateful for the warning, comment your biggest takeaway or a time love almost poisoned you. Share this video so someone else can be saved from the same fate, and subscribe to Lord of Hearts for more raw, real, heart-wrenching American stories. Turn on notifications. The next one might be the one that changes how you love forever. Script.